I think a really interesting literary study would be to compare the depictions of John Bunyan and the way that he describes evil in Pilgrim's Progress in juxtaposition to the way that C.S. Lewis does the same thing in his Chronicles of Narnia. Here's what I mean by that. Bunyan, when he's describing pure evil incarnate, he draws up the character of Apollyon, who Christian has to fight him straight up and head on in the Valley of the Shadow of Death in Pilgrim's Progress, right? And Apollyon, he is this vile, heinous, wicked, evil creature. He's kind of dragonoid in his appearance. His skin is rough, scaly, like a reptile. He breathes fire, physically repulsive, stinking breath, all of that. And so as children are kind of reading the story, and adults too, wise and discerning adults too, they get the idea that evil is truly in its nature repulsive and heinous. It's something that you don't want any part of. But Lewis, he does something a little bit more clever when he depicts evil in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and particularly in the first book of the series, The Magician's Nephew. He depicts evil in a very beautiful and seducing form of the White Witch, Queen Jadis, who, if you look at her physical description, again, especially in Magician's Nephew, she's described as very tall, 7 feet tall. She's absolutely beautiful. She's captivating. She's charming in a most manipulative way, physically strong, and again, beautifully alluring. Now, there's something to both depictions. Both Bunyan and Lewis has something really, really right at the core. What Bunyan has right is that evil is in fact repulsive because all evil is a contortion, a distortion, a twisting, a malformation of what is good or right or holy or pure. And of course, pure holiness despises that which is evil and repugnant, which is why Bunyan has it right that Apollyon is evil and heinous. But Lewis also has something very, very true here, in the sense that evil often comes to us in seductive and manipulating, conniving types of forms. Now, when we were children and we watched the old Disney films, I don't recommend Disney much anymore these days. The Disney films were very simplistic in this regard, in that as children we learned quite early that the beautiful characters were those who were morally morally good and right. So for instance, Snow White and Cinderella, the princesses were those who had pure intentions, and they came across the silver screen as quite beautiful and charming. Contrary-wise, the Wicked Witch or the stepmother was always bulbous in form, a gross nose and warts and hair coming out of wrong places. And we got that idea very early that that good is beautiful and evil is disgusting. But unfortunately, it's not all so terribly simple in reality, is it? And that's why I think Revelation chapter 17, where we're working right now at Gospel Fellowship, working through the book of Revelation, really does something very, very, it's quite profound, as it depicts evil as both the harlot, the prostitute on one hand, but riding upon the beast on the other hand. So let's just think about those two things just for a moment. The prostitute, of course, she is adorned or arrayed with an outwardly beautiful form. She has on these jewels, and she has on this purple garment and the scarlet cloth. Now, purple, of course, in the New Testament is the color of elitism or wealth. And so purple cloth, we see this with Lydia, who trades purple cloth in the book of Acts, and we see it in the story of Lazarus and the rich man, and even Christ as he's being prepared to be crucified. They put on him a purple garment to mock him. Purple is a sign of outward wealth and extravagance. And also the jewels that the prostitute is wearing probably mimics the ephod that the high priest would wear in the Old Testament in the book of Exodus. And so there's something really, it's dangerous, isn't it? The way that evil can sometimes come across to us as alluring or attractive. And here the prostitute stands for false religion, because the prophetic trope, going back to Isaiah and Ezekiel and Jeremiah, is that false teaching, false religion, especially amongst the visible people of God, like when Judah and Israel, they amalgamate their faith into the practices and beliefs of the pagan nations, they're described as being like prostitutes or like harlots there. Okay, and so this idea is evil is sometimes very deceptive. It comes across as attractive and alluring, but in fact, what she's riding on is the beast, and the beast is very similar to the sea beast in Revelation chapter 13, probably the same beast, right? Because of its multiple heads and horns and things like that. But the beast always gives its power to the red dragon, described in chapter 12, which is none other than Satan himself. And so John, as he's seeing this vision, he's seeing two things kind of merged into one: the outwardly seductive and attractive form of evil, that's your Queen Jadis, riding upon the evil, repugnant, ungodly, and unholy form of demonic power, which is the beast. Of course, John Bunyan's Apollyon, similarly. I think we do well to look at this in the scriptures, and especially in places like Proverbs chapter 5 and Proverbs chapter 7, where it describes the seductress as one whose voice and words are like honey dripping with allure, as she pulls in this ignorant and foolish character into her web of adulterous deceit. You know, here's the bottom line. In this world, that which is good is truly beautiful. But often that which is evil comes across as being beautiful when in fact it's really, really heinous and repugnant. So watch out, Christian, as you listen to the things that you hear, especially some of the propaganda and the lies. Very often things that are deeply, deeply perverse are presented in terms and concepts that sound alluring and right, but only to draw you into the dragon's maniacal ways. That's all I have for this morning. Thanks for checking in. Love you lots, and we'll talk to you later.